संस्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। पवित्रं चरितं यस्याः पवित्रं जीवनं तथा पवित्रतास्वरूपिण्यै तस्यै कुर्मो नमो नमः। नमः श्री यतिराजाय विवेकानन्दसूरये सच्चित्सुखस्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे ओम सर्वमंगलमांगल्ये शिवे सर्वार्थसाधिके शरण्ये त्र्यंबके गौरी नारायणी नमोस्तुते। So today it's a class on Karma Yoga. We have completed the chapter, the ideal of Karma Yoga, but I have to sum up the chapter. While summing up the chapter, there is one point we have to analyze a bit. After doing that, I will begin with a new chapter. That is, each is great in its own place. The fifth chapter according to our serial, but the second chapter in the published version of Complete Verse of Swami Vivekananda. In the ideal of Karma Yoga, Swamiji began his lecture saying, the goal of all yogas is same. Naturally, the goal of Karma Yoga will also be the goal of Jnana Yoga, Raja Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. So Swamiji concluded saying, freedom is the goal of all yogas. At the same time, Karma Yoga means attaining freedom. Then Swamiji says, it's a system of ethics or religion which intended to lead us to freedom through unselfish actions and good works. When he used the word good work, he tried to explain a bit about doing good in the world, taking the concept of the idea of millennium, the idea of equality, all those things we have discussed. And then Swamiji explained it even through Sankhya Yoga, saying the very imbalance between Sattva, Rajas and Tamas leads to creation of the world. When there is equilibrium, then it leads to Laya. So Swamiji says diversity is the rule of creation. There can be equality in the concept, in the feeling, but there cannot be equality in this world in the sense of sameness. Ella Vandu, in the sense of sameness. So now you understand the idea of equality, the idea of millennium. Through knowing all these things, you are out of fanaticism. Now you have understood the world. Now Swamiji takes up the idea. Once you have understood the work, now I will tell you how to do the work here. You have understood the word, the concept, the philosophy of the word. Now, how to do karma, knowing all these things, karma in the sense of yoga. How to do it? Then Swamiji says, it is mainly, karma yogi does not depend on any external motive power. You have to understand a bit here correctly. Analyzing oneself. Swamiji says, Karma Yogi does not depend on any external factor, but he depends on what? Inborn love of freedom leads to Karma Yoga. Inborn love for freedom is the motive power through which he works in this world. When Swamiji says inborn love for freedom, if we can really understand this word, inborn love for freedom. Swamiji said all yogas leads to freedom. So inborn love for freedom applies to Jnana, Raja and Bhakti also. Is it not? It does not mean only for Karma Yogi. Inborn love for freedom is there for everybody. When you understand inborn love for freedom, I have a question for you. A small question. if we have the inborn love for freedom, what will be your feeling when you sing Khandana? Then we have to put the question, really do we have the inborn love for freedom? Swami says, Karma Yogi does not depend. After concluding the chapter, suddenly the idea came that I have to analyze a bit here. This is very important point. Although many may understand, it's not that you don't understand, I don't understand, but analyzing will make us some things very clear. I cannot say many things, at least majority of things we can make it clear. So the feeling with which I sing Khandana Bhavabandhana definitely will be different if I understand the inborn. Already it is there, but I have not recognized it. And it is very much essential for a karma yogi to have this. Because we are working in the society, if you don't stand up on a subjective standpoint, definitely that person is going to have miseries in life. Only it's a subjective standpoint, inborn love for freedom. Generally, if you ask the students at the end of the year, in April, May, they will be waiting for the exams to be completed. Abba, today my final paper is over, I am free. And if you ask a person who has worked 30, 40 years in any institution XYZ, I am waiting for the day of retirement. But the question is there, what to do after retirement? But I am fed up with going there to seeing the same Swami, seeing the same person, seeing same principal XYZ. If it is not a transferable job, you have to see the same person till you work. So, we will be waiting for the freedom from work. And if you are working for a long time with high responsible positions, we will be waiting to be relieved from responsibilities. But this is not inborn love for freedom, it is escapism. So, inborn love for freedom, I will give one or two examples from our school, Shivanahalli. When I went in the beginning stages, so of course 2 months, more than 2 months, Vishnu Manji was not there. I entered Shivanahalli when he was after he got hospitalized. So, for first 2 months I used to stay near the campus where his office was there. Now I shifted to a different office, backside. It's a little bit far away from the school campus, main campus. So, every day in the morning, before going to the breakfast, after coming out of my room, I used to go to the shrine, do pranams to Thakurma Swamiji, then take breakfast and 8:30 back to office. At 7:45 or 7:50, a small boy, class 1, he will be roaming around. Those children who come by walk, they will be there by 7:45. Of course, village people don't have any rigid idea about schooling. They may not study, but they are not afraid of schooling. They simply come, stay and go back. Not all, but 2 villages are still not in that area, but majority have the feeling. So, he used to be there around 7:45, 7:50. By the time I go to the shrine, he will be waiting. After coming out of the shrine, he will do pranams to Swamiji, whoever he will. We were only 2 that time. He will search for the Swamis. After going to shrine, he will search for Swamis. Do pranam to a Swami. Then he will walk. He will run for play. So, what will be our feeling seeing that boy? What motivates us to talk to him? You have to analyze. I am giving a basic example. Then I will develop it a bit. So, even suppose by some other work, if I am unable to meet him in the morning, he will leave the campus at 1:45. I will take food at 1:15, 1:30, then come out. He will be moving near the gate just to go out of the school. If he meets me at that time, he will say, Neen sikle illa. They don't have any plural for tavu, neevu like that in Kannada. In village, for everybody, elders, juniors, they use always singular, including a Swami. They don't say neevu. Neen sikle illa, belige. He will very innocently say, then what will be my attitude? Poor fellow, he is seeking me, so I should be available to me. What motivated you to go to him? Because he felt that I am unable. No. That innocence will not stay long. That innocence will not stay long. That under subconscious state, all the hidden egos are there. Once it gets a chance, that innocence goes. Then what will be your motive power to love him? Every child, now he will not come. Now after 4 months, now I am in new office, I won't meet him at all. Now even after meeting him, I asked him, where you went? He was very busy. Now he has got new friends. Once he goes to the school, starts playing, gets a friend, he forgets the Swami. They are not remembering your Swami. So, the psychology of young children varies according to age. When they are at a class 1, their psychology is different. At 4 or 5 class, their psychology is different. At a high school level, their psychology is different. At a college level, their psychology is different. Once they start working and get married, their psychology is totally different. This change in psychology leads to the difference in their attitude also. So, when you love those young children, it should not be motivated by their guilelessness. No. I think I am very clear in what I am trying to say to you. My motivation power is that either I should see that boy as a form of God, as a form of consciousness, or he is a part of God. That should be our motivation while we talk to the children. Because if we are motivated by the guilelessness, that guilelessness will not stay long. It is too short. And their idea of guilelessness varies. Suppose if they get new friends, they totally forget the old friends. So this is one example which happens in day-to-day activity. We try to help the poor. If we have the means, definitely help the poor. But helping the poor, what is your motivation? What's your motive power? Is it the helplessness of the pure person? No. Of course, it may draw you towards them to help because we have heart. But the motive power behind every act should be the inborn freedom, love for freedom. Please analyze it a bit better and better. Lack of resources, lack of economic prosperity should not be the motive power. Oh, that's a means. That's a means. But motive power for a karma yogi, for all yogis, is inborn love for freedom. We should have, it's a subjective part. Whatever is external to us is always objective. Any objective motive power will always vary according to the world standard. One more very common example. Suppose, if I give my own example in the sense of lecturing or giving a talk. What is your motive power, Swamiji? Generally what happens, you see, in Bangalore, of course, I am not a very good speaker in the sense of a great orator. No. Few people may follow, few people may praise the way I speak, but it's not a sufficient motive power to make a big speech. Anyhow, let us say, if 1,000 people attend a lecture, That was the motive power, then what would your standpoint during Corona? Not even a single audience. I have to sit in front of a camera and speak. We did it for 1.5 years. What's your motive power? Are we speaking because of the audience or the devotees who are hearing? No. The motive power should always be inborn love for freedom. Whatever we do, it should be very subjective. Hence, Swamiji tried to explain the concept of equality, the concept of the idea of millennium, and the concept of morality, the idea of duty. Why he tried to explain? In all the previous chapters we have seen what is morality, what is duty, what is how can we bring equality in this world. Swamiji explained all these things. Why? Develop. If we feel that we don't have an inborn love for freedom, develop that love. We have to recognize. Developing means what? Recognize that there is something which is subjective. Stand on that subjective and then realize what it is. And then there will be natural inclination towards love for freedom, inborn love for freedom. We have to recognize it. Every act should be based on this inborn love for freedom. Otherwise, there are hundreds of examples. I have given an indication how to analyze. Depending on this analysis, you extend this and analyze further. Because especially for a bhakta, me, myself and God. For a jnani, he is Atma Vichara. For a Rajogi, he never comes to society. He is Yama, Asana, Pranayam, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi. He is with himself only. But for a Karma Yogi, 24 hours of the day we are in the society, drawn by the people's attitude. Not only drawn, inspired. For good or bad, we are inspired. For many, suppose somebody who can inspire men by speech to motivate them for XYZ factors can definitely motivate you for many reasons. And we will be drawn to those ideas. Many people have this problem. They hear a wonderful lecture and they decide that tomorrow I will start Vedanta class. And after he is pravritti and he is not adhikari for that, but he is inspired by hearing some lecture. And then next day, he cannot understand, he may, but he cannot practice that. So what? He stood on inspiration of somebody's lecture. So you have to analyze why Swamiji has brought the Karma Yogi does not depend on any external motive power except the inborn love for freedom. By the way, I want to make one point. In the Leela Prasanga, last Sunday, I explained a bit of Bhairavi Brahmani and the relationship with Thakur. And then I gave the example of a sadhaki who attended a lecture at IIM. There Swamiji, in one of his letters, while giving the summary of all the 4 yogas in one paragraph, he explains all yogas in one paragraph. Jnana Yoga in one para, Karma Yoga in para, Raja Yoga and Bhakti Yoga each in one paragraph, and try to explain what do you mean by Karma Yoga, Raja Yoga, Bhakti Yoga and Jnana Yoga. When he is trying to explain what is Jnana Yoga, Swamiji explains there, many people will understand intellectually what is Jnana Yoga, but few will realize it. When it comes to Jnana Yoga, Swamiji, I wanted to explain this. At least hint at it. Swamiji says, many people will hear, can understand intellectually what is Jnana Yoga, but few can realize it. Men means including both the genders. Men without control of their senses cannot even understand what is Jnana Yoga. A perfect self-control is the basic necessity to enter into Jnana Yoga. Without sense control, you can understand everything intellectually, but you can dare to enter. No. For there are options. If you have love, ordinary mortal loves, try to convert it to diverting it towards God and make it pure later on. You have time. You are full of selfishness. Try to do some unselfish act in between. Convert selfishness into unselfishness in course of time. But for a Gnana Yogi, if you want to enter, the basic condition is 100% self-control. Swamiji makes a statement. Many people will understand this Gnana Yoga intellectually, but few will realize it. Without perfect self-control, you cannot enter into Gnana Yoga. That's why many people will ask, even when I went to Shimoga, after my talk, after coming out, I had just narrated this practical Vedanta 15 lectures and then a bit of Vakyavritti. Hearing those lectures, he was inspired and started reading Brahma Sutra. The moment I came out, he said, Swamiji, your practical Vedanta lecture was so wonderful and Vakyavritti, and I am hearing XYZ, I don't want to name the persons, XYZ lectures on all Vedanta. Now I started seriously studying Vedanta, Brahma Sutra. Then I told, what were you doing all this before that? Swamiji is depending only on japa. Then I told, stop reading Brahma Sutra, do japa 50,000 a day, then start. After you do practice, you have taken mantra diksha, is it not? Yes, Swamiji. Then, first, do mantra japa, attain siddhi in that. Read. Reading is not at all a problem. Reading and intelligence is not at all a problem. But to get self-control, how to do it? First do japa. Attain perfection in nama japa. Let it become ajapa japa. Then you will be a perfect adhikari to enter to gnana. Adhikaratva, how do you get? That's why everything you should stand on a subjective standpoint. We should have a subjective standpoint. Swamiji makes for a karma yogi. So when we criticize this word, is it not? Suppose some problem is there in this word. What do? You criticize this word. What did Swamiji said? The goodness or badness of this word depends on the state of the mind. This word is neither good nor bad. Difficult to understand, but he has spoken the truth. So now apply. If you are trying to criticize somebody XYZ, so many people criticize the ashramas also, Swamis. I think they are very free. They have time to gossip and criticize somebody. If you have so much work to do, no time to tell, criticize. We don't have time, is it not? If we are free, then only we will do all those things, unwanted things. So, why? Because it depends on your state of mind. Until unless we develop that inborn love for freedom, any yoga will not be a yoga. It only a karma. A bhakti, a yoga without bhakti. He is not a bhakta in that sense, not a karma yogi in that sense. That's why Swamiji tried to explain the highest, develop it, the inborn love for freedom, make it subjective. Your karma yoga, attitude of karma yoga is mainly subjective. There is nothing objective in this word. No motive power in the word except your subjective inborn love for freedom. And then Swamiji, this I wanted to analyze a bit. I have just given hint at it. Please develop this idea. Develop it further. And do manana on this idea. Do nididhyasana. And apply it to day-to-day activity. You are at office, you are with people, you are in the ashrama, you are trying to serve somebody, XYZ. Analyze it in all those relative environment. And then, depending on the experience, you try to analyze with the statement of Swamiji, whether it is due to inborn love for freedom or motivated by any other thing. Then you will understand the psychology of your mind and where we stand. Then try to go further. So, saying all these things, Swamiji brought the idea of the self, that it is never bound at any moment, it is always free. Have this idea and then do karma yoga. Having the idea of the self, do karma yoga. Then somebody says in the West, if we say it's all an ideal and never we can do it, then Swamiji gave the example of, I will give an ideal karma yogi. The perfect ideal karma yogi, the perfect ideal for the karma yoga is Buddha. With this he concluded the idea of Buddha. He is a perfect karma yogi. The ideal, not a perfect. Swamiji's word is ideal karma yogi in the whole world was Buddha. With that, Swamiji concluded the ideal of karma yoga chapter. Now we will begin with the fifth in our sequence. Each is great in his own place. Now, because he is speaking about karma yoga, of course, all yogas. Now, particularly karma yoga, that's all. We Hindus have doubts regarding householders attaining to freedom and practicing yoga. I don't know how it crept in, but it exists. Hence, Swamiji is taking this idea of a sannyasin and a householder practicing karma yoga. In the next chapter, now we are dealing each is great in his own place. After concluding this chapter, Swamiji comes to the chapter, the secret of work. He gives all the ideas. Even in secret of work, you will see Swamiji has explained only one idea. Whole chapter, he explains only one idea in secret of work. No other idea, except only one. I will narrate only when I come there. I am just hinting at. Swamiji explains only one idea. How to do, what is the secret of work? Swamiji gives only one idea, and that is very much, if I say Vishesha, you will not gain that idea in Gita. That is the quality that Swamiji has substituted, which was missing there in the Gita, which is, of course, not explained in the way Swamiji has tried to explain in the secret of work. Though he takes lot in the secret of work, Swamiji quotes lot from Bhagavad Gita only. Maybe more than 5-6 slokas are there in Gita, from the Gita. And then he sticks to one idea, he explains in his own way and concludes the chapter with a story. Before entering into secret of work, Swamiji wants to make one idea clear, that all are equal with respect to adhikaratva. With respect to adhikari, don't feel that I am not staying at ashrama. If I had known at the age of 21, if I read a complete verse when I was going to college, definitely I would have get a good place to stay and a nice Ramakrishna mission, XYZ, and I would be a great yogi standing on top of Himalayas with nirvana. No, Swamiji says no. Wherever you are there, you have to attain freedom. That's why Swamiji begins with, each is great in his own place. You are a householder, you are great. You are a doctor, you are a great. Are you a lawyer? You are a great. Are you a Swami? Wonderful, you are great. Everybody each is great in his own place. So now he is clarifying the doubt regarding adhikaratva. In between he gives a few ideas regarding karma yoga also. Of course, now very surprisingly he begins the chapter taking the idea from Sankhya philosophy. Now he is dealing with karma yoga, that each is in great in his own place. But he begins with the idea of creation according to Sankhya yoga, Sustivada, according to Sankhya. Everybody draws this idea of creation from Sankhya, including Vedanta. They make a little changes here and there, but the creation idea has been, Sankhya is the oldest philosophy. So, taking Sankhya philosophy, Swamiji says there are three forces responsible for creation, which we have explained a bit in earlier chapter also: Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Why Swamiji is quoting Sattva, Rajas and Sattva is, according to Swamiji says Tamas is darkness, Rajas is activity, of course Sattva is equilibrium of the two. And now, giving a bit of explanation, Swamiji says, every man and woman, they have these three forces acting in them, sattva, rajas and tamas. According to their many factors, one may be dominant, but all the three forces will be acting in men or women. So now, what is the duty of a karma yogi regarding this? Swamiji says, karma yoga has specially to deal with these three factors. By teaching what they are and how to employ them, it helps us to do our work better. If you want to do work better, you have to understand how does tamas work, how does a sattva work, how does rajas work. Of course, Swamiji does not go into details. He will drop this idea here only after hinting at it, that's all. To be a karma yogi, you have to understand sattva, the idea, or what sattva, rajas and tamas means. You have to understand it by knowing from the Gita. Gunakarma Vibhagashah. There is Krishna very clearly explains in Bhagavad Gita. So Swamiji hints at it in the beginning and drops. Now before entering into the main subject, he brings few ideas from what is duty. We have seen already what is duty. He brings idea of morality and duty and tries to explain. He repeats more or less the same idea what he repeated in duty. And here he gives two more examples which were not given while explaining what is duty. The example is, when we are practicing morality, Swamiji says, one must understand that there are gradations in morality. Before attaining to a perfect state of moral life, there are gradations to attain to the state of perfection regarding morality. This applies to duty also. To explain, Swamiji takes up the idea. All great teachers have taught. What they have taught? Resist not evil. Non-resistance is the highest moral ideal. Resist not evil. You should not resist any evil. Non-resistance is the highest ideal. So, resist not evil. It is difficult to understand also. If I say resist not evil, you say, how Swamiji, suppose all parents will first object. Swamiji, suppose my son or a daughter will steal. It's an evil. What is the ideal? Resist not evil. Swamiji, you are going against morality. To clear this, Swamiji is explaining, resist not evil is the highest ideal. So there are gradations in it. So, Swamiji himself will say, if everybody on this earth tries to practice it, resist not evil, Swamiji says, whole social fabric will fall to pieces. The wicked would take possession of our properties and of our lives. So then, how to practice this ideal? And before explaining it, Swamiji says, the problem with majority regarding religion, the main problem regarding practicing religion. What is the main problem? The moment we feel that we have to follow religion, following religion, I am not telling in the sense of following a Hindu religion, following Islamic religion, no, not religious practice, no. In the sense of sadhaka, to attain perfection, that is freedom. We have taken any yoga. When you start practicing any yoga, then you will see, so many rules are put. Oh, you have to get up at Brahmi Muhurtam, sleep less, eat less, talk less, maunam. So many rules are put. And what happens? In the beginning, there will be lot of enthusiasm. I have seen a boy. He came, Swamiji, I feel that I have to practice a lot. I have to reduce my sleep. So Swamiji, I have decided to get up every day at 4 o'clock, sleep at night at 12 or 1 o'clock. I said, from how many days are you practicing this? Swamiji, from few days. Brother, at the beginning, sleep at least for 8 hours now. My suggestion, I told him, you sleep for 8 hours. Have a sound sleep. First enjoy sleep yourself. Be contented that sleeping will not lead to anything. Be content. Have contentment with sleeping. Many people have discontentment regarding sleeping. Because we have to, for so many reasons, we have to get up early in the morning. There will be discontentment. If I had a chance to sleep for another 30 minutes, definitely I would have taken a half an hour extra sleep. First, gain contentment in sleeping. After drawing contentment, then practice slowly. Reduce your sleep 15 minutes for a week, for 2 weeks. Then practicing for 6 months or 1 year. Then reduce your sleep for 6 hours. Then later you try for 4 hours. I think afterwards he could not even get up at 6. He was so enthusiastic in the beginning, he could not continue. He could not get up even at 6 afterwards. That's why the problem in practicing religion is, Swamiji is explaining, I am trying to explain in my own way. We see an ideal, but we are at a particular point. There is an ideal, we are at a particular point. From our particular relative standpoint, we always see the ideal. Especially I very jokingly say, reading Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. When I read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna for the first time, I told you many times, Sri Ramakrishna Gospel and including the life of Sri Ramakrishna. Once Sri Ramakrishna get established in his sadhana, Bhava Samadhi is very automatic for him. When he will go to Bhava Samadhi, 24 hours definitely he will be in Bhava Samadhi. Reading all those things so many times, hearing the word, we didn't know how can a college going youth can understand Bhava Samadhi. Even Narendra went in such a Bhava Samadhi, is it not? So, hearing so many times Bhava Samadhi, I thought after practicing 1 year, I think we also can get Bhava Samadhi like Sri Ramakrishna. So, there is an ideal. But we read so many things from the book. Try to practice it. But due to our own limitations, many times we fall. With respect to truer ideal. Then what happens? We are not happy with ourselves. In the beginning, for all people who are trying to do sadhana, always they will have discontentment with themselves. I could not do it. I tried to do it. My work is there till 10:30. Now because of IT, we have to work for 12 hours. I want to get up at 4. Always he will be groaning. Always complaining. Always he will be with some other negative idea. Because he is talking of the ideal, unable to reach that ideal, and always he is not pleased with himself, and it will lead to a split personality. If we are unable to practice it properly and to understand, we have to understand ourselves, where we stand is very important. We may know that's a problem with this modern internet. You can hear hundreds of lectures from New York, but what's your position as a sadhaka? What's my position as a sadhaka? Are you a adhikari for that? Who is there to tell adhikara bheda to us? We are not going to Gurukula. Just type one word, Vedanta, in YouTube. You will get 10,000 lectures on Vedanta. You are ready to hear it. You just hear. But once we start practicing it, what we have heard, we feel we are not prepared enough for that life. And there will be a split person. He will be speaking something, following something else in his personal life. It will lead to a split in his psychology itself, in his whole perception. I think you would have met many people, especially you will have a lot of people on the sadhaka side having split personality. All these things we have to transcend. Don't think that, oh, he has got a split personality. No, these are all the phases we have to struggle. Don't think that it's easy. It's there. It's there. We have to accept it and transcend it. That's all. So, Swamiji says, when we talk of it, suppose I say that every great teacher taught us non-resistance is the highest ideal or the highest idea with regarding to morality. If we hear for the first time, we feel that we are unable to practice it and we have a discontentment ourselves, and it leads to what? Constant self-disapproval. We will have a constant self-disapproval. I could not do it. I have weaker. Always you see those people who read a lot about sadhana and don't perform, they have a constant self-disapproval. Always they try to avoid work. Because they are not following their path. They are reading something else and try to follow, which they are unable to follow. And it leads to constant self-disapproval. So Swamiji says, to the man who has begun to hate himself, the gate to degeneration has already opened. And the same is true of nation. If we begin to hate oneself, the road to degeneration, the gate to degeneration is already opened. You have opened your gate to degeneration. Means you are entering it tomorrow. It's opened. Nobody has locked, no security, no timings. It's already open, and we have entered into degeneration because we are hating oneself. Why? We have taken the highest ideal. Non-resistance is the highest ideal for morality. No? That's why Swamiji says, and it is the same is true of nation also. Of course, you know, in a pre-independent era, nobody thought like Swamiji thought about this country. When he went to West, though he was not happy with our religious practices, none of these ideas he spoke in America. In America, he gave the highest ideal of Vedanta. He gave the highest ideal of all our yogas. Never complained about India. But once he came back, he never spoke about Vedanta. He spoke our faults in our practicing of Vedanta. That's why, if you hate, for many reasons, never to degenerate, there should be, let us, okay, in my, I think, one thing, 1 month back regarding some concepts on Vedanta, many people go, oh, Swamiji, it's all too ideal. It's you, it's me. Pure conscious is nothing, neither this object nor it's me, it's we, it's you. It's me within hidden. Let us take time. Okay, let us understand. It takes time. Let us understand. Mind has problem. Let us understand. Okay. Why do you compromise with the mind? Okay, you got a negative thought. Yes, it's there in the mind, but not in me. I am pure, eternally pure, absolutely pure. No power on this earth. Swamiji, if I can use the word, no power on either on the above the sun or below the sun. Swamiji says, no power either above the sun or below the sun can crush the possessor thereof. Equipped with these, you can face the whole world. Swamiji says, so it's me. That power is hidden within me. It takes time to understand. But at this moment, I have a lot of problems in the mind. For that, there are practices. So, understand your relative position, understand the ideal, and understand that it takes time. Then we will not be hating oneself. Hating oneself means you have opened the gate of degeneration. It's common for a man and for a nation. Never we should hate the country. Of course, these things I take up these ideas while explaining in colleges. What is not necessary. So now continuing, Swamiji says, our first duty is not to hate ourselves, because to advance we must have faith in oneself first and then in God. You be careful while reading. Swamiji says, of course, this is one of the famous statements of Swamiji. One of the famous statements. We must have faith in oneself first and then in God. Now, taking the idea of resist not evil, he is developing his idea, have faith in oneself, then in God. And he gives a second example. I don't want to explain this. These ideas have been well explained in many of the things of Swamiji's other lectures also. Faith in oneself leads to faith in God. All these things are well explained. And then he gives second example. One is resist not evil. Second thing is that many people, especially in the West, even now I can add in India also, are surprised at the teaching of Krishna, Klaibhyam Masmagapata Naitatva Upabadhate Kshudram Hrudayadorum Tektotishta Parantapa. He is addressing Arjuna's Klaibhyam Maskum. He is saying, you are a coward. And he is initiating him to fight a war, to wage a war. So many people in the West are surprised to see a God inspiring a Kshatriya to wage a war. Swami is saying. Sri Krishna calls Arjuna a hypocrite. So, in the reading the Bhagavad Gita, many of you in Western countries may have felt astonished at the second chapter wherein Sri Krishna calls Arjuna a hypocrite and a coward because of his refusal to fight. Why Arjuna failed to fight? Not out of strength, but because of cowardice. So, there is a difference with resistance and non-resistance. Buddha can follow the path of non-resistance. We have to take the path of resistance. Swamiji even, he says, I think it may come later on also. Yes. Before reaching this highest ideal, man's duty is to resist evil. Let him work, let him fight, let him strike straight from the shoulder. Before reaching this highest ideal, man's duty is to resist evil, let him work, let him fight, let him strike straight from the shoulder. Then only, even in the borders, you cannot use arms, firearms, like a weapon, artillery, SLR, self-loading rifle, SLR, and then machines like MG, machine guns, you cannot use in the borders. You have to strike shoulders. Especially it happened in Doklam with China soldiers hitting each other, fighting with the bars, hitting with bars, because you cannot use the artillery in the bars. That's the mutual understanding between India and China. That's why they used to strike shoulders. Let him work, let him fight, let him strike straight from the shoulder. Then only, when he has gained the power to resist, will non-resistance be a virtue. So, to attain to a place of non-resistance, first you should know how to fight. That's why he gives two examples. One is non-resistance is the highest ideal. And the second point, he takes the idea, explains it through the example of Bhagavad Gita, where Sri Krishna exhorts Arjuna to fight, to wage a war. Why? Develop the attitude of resisting all evil, to come to a place where non-resistance will be a virtue. Till you attain, resist. Once you attain, it will be a virtue for you. That's why, with the last example, like I will conclude, because today is also Gita Jayanti. I have to conclude earlier, it's all the time up. Swamiji says, I once met a man in my country. In India, he met a man who came to Swamiji seeking some disciplines to know, to realize God and to attain freedom. But Swamiji says that man was a brute. Brute means a lazy person without doing any work. He was a brute. And he came to Swamiji seeking some spiritual guidance to attain God, to realize Atman otherwise. Then Swamiji puts him questions, can you tell a lie? Swami is famous, this is also one of the famous statements. Swami says, can you tell a lie? Then that man replied, no. Swami says, then you must learn to do so. First learn to work, then non-working, akarmani, will be a natural. If you transcend, how to transcend work? By doing work, not by escaping work. So it is better to tell a lie than to be a brute or a log of wood. You are inactive. You have not certainly reached the highest state. That's why Swamiji explains, even in Bhagavad Gita also, when Sri Krishna says, karmani eva adhikaraste. What is the last sentence in the same shloka? Mate sangostu akarmani. Don't have love for akarma, inactivity. Just because I say karmani eva adhikaraste, only you have the, to do work you have the freedom, but not to the fruits thereof. When I say you have right to work, not to the fruits, generally what I think, oh, I don't want neither the fruit, so let us drop the work itself. Then Sri Krishna very emphatically says, no, mate sangostu akarmani. Don't have love for akarma, sangha of akarma. Do karma, then transcend karma, then they attain a state of Buddha through nirvana and do karma and be ideal karma yogi. So, to transcend karma, first there should be activity. With activity you are attaining inactivity. Attaining is inactivity is not through dropping karma, through karma. Now Swamiji has to, with all these ideas, he will come to each is great in its own place. So with this we will conclude today's talk. We will be continuing the same thing next Sunday. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.